thing that I could do. I slept through my phone ringing as people looked for me to pay them back their money. Even though I'd already paid as much as I could, I slept through it stop ringing. I slept through thoughts of leaving the country and restarting my life elsewhere. I slept through it all. But after about 6 months, and I'm in an ode to human resilience, I got back up and I thought, you know what? That was unexpected, that was painful, so I'm going to start this thing again. But my mind wasn't in it. I was battle scarred, I was battle bruised, so I decided I was going to head out and I was going to do something different. And I got a job in a technology company that was building mobile financial service software, and I worked there for about 9 months. But in a few short weeks, I was running products for banks such as Barclays, Standard Chartered, and I absolutely loved it. It was an induction to a new love. My old love of finance was still there, but there was a new love that I discovered called technology. And about 9 months into working for this company, I decided, you know what? It's about time I head out and combine these two loves and build a business. And later that year, the year that I left the business, I went back to my old company, but I set up two things. I set up what I call the Money Academy, which was essentially teaching people how to invest, and I worked with large companies to teach their employees on how to invest. But that was because that was what paid, and I set up a blog online, and I was building a community of investors that I was going to turn into my Pan-African investment bank. This is actually the Money Academy, this participant's manual. This was one of the editions I did by the time I was in 2011. As you can imagine, in 2011, I was 25 years old. So a lot of people would be looking at me and asking, what are you here to tell us? So I had to find older people to teach my content so that people would actually buy this. Then later, I met with some VC funds, and we came together and we turned that online part of my business into PesaTalk. PesaTalk became one of the largest consumer news business, and we liked to believe, or what we promoted ourselves as doing, was actually turning business news into English. You know, that was our tagline. And this was a fantastic opportunity for me because it was the first time I'd actually worked with VC, and it was a great time for people who were funding the business. But after about 9 months of back and forth with people who we kind of saw different opinions on where this business would go, I left. And everybody thought I'd leave, I'd just get all my advertisers who are on PesaTalk, all my writers, and we'd start something new. But after years of just dealing with the same, the startup problem, and it drains you, it kills you, it completely finishes you, I decided I didn't want to do that. So I decided at 26 I was retiring. And I left and I sold all my furniture in Nairobi, and I went to Nyeri and I started a chicken farm. I was retired. That was going to be my story. I would be the guy who retired at 26. But in Nyeri, I lived there for about a year. And during that year, I kept thinking about this. And I kept thinking, when I was 21, I wanted to build a Pan-African investment bank. I've failed twice so far, but I haven't finished. I haven't done what I set out to do. So, and earlier in that year, before I'd left, I'd actually been invited to speak at Harvard Business School about venture capital in sub-Saharan Africa. And while I was there, I met with different Kenyans, and there was one guy who came to me and said, I'll give you $50,000 today, you go home, and you invest it for me. And I remember asking him, you don't know me, but you're willing to give me 5 million shillings. And he told me a story of how he'd been sending money home every year, but then after 15 years, coming back hoping to, like Augusta, set his life, discover that his family had frittered all that money away and was sending him pictures of fake buildings that they were apparently constructing for him. And he thought, if I can't trust them, maybe you might be a better option. And that was one of the things that influenced me to get back into Abacus. So I came back from Nyeri again, and I decided I was going to set up. And maybe, third time's a charm, and a charm it was. Barely 2 weeks after I got in, an intern who had been working with us as a software developer at PesaTalk called me up and said, hey, do you have an internship opportunity? And I thought, oh, fantastic. Here, come in. We went to the NSE with him. We borrowed a few data files. We built a prototype. And at the same time as we were doing this, my business partner, my current business partner and co-founder, who had been at Harvard Business School, happened to be at home for 6 months. He had just taken a job at McKinsey, and he took his sign-on bonus. They actually pay people for joining companies over there. And used that to fund our initial prototype. And we went out to raise money, and we did raise a bit of money. And we knew for 24 months we didn't have to worry about our bills getting paid because we had raised money from local investors. And about 6 months in, we were hit by another series of unfortunate events. 9 months in, we were hit by another series of unfortunate events. You guys expected this was a Disney story, isn't it? No, it keeps getting interesting. In 2015, in October, the bank that was holding the money that we were drawing down as investment was put into receivership. And 15 months, the 15-month runway we had disappeared. It didn't disappear gradually, it disappeared 1 week. We couldn't access money. So in a panic, we started trying to sell this half-cooked product We went out, we tried to get companies to buy it, pitching to brokers and banks, but everybody kept telling us, you guys, we have a Bloomberg terminal, this thing doesn't quite do anything for us. And so we thought, okay, so we can't seem to sell this, we're going to try and raise money. So we flew to Dublin. My co-founder had a few connections in Dublin, and he came in from Chicago, where he was based. We went to Dublin, and one day while we were preparing to do our presentation to a series of investors, we realized that the website couldn't be found. We'd go to abacus.co.k and there was no website. It turned out that the company that was providing us with hosting, a company by the name of Angani, had gone down. So we had no money, and while trying to raise money, we had no website. And so instead of presenting, we spent the day moving, setting up on disaster recovery, our disaster recovery servers. Thankfully, we had managed to secure everything, and out of the maybe 250 people who had signed up at that stage, only 19 needed to reset their password. We didn't lose any data. It was just purely people needed to reset the password. And that was in November of 2015. So we decided, you know what, that also seems not to be working, so we're going to come back and we're going to do one thing we didn't want to do, because we'd been building technology. We were going to open this technology up to our partners and they could utilize it for what we were doing. So we opened up the technology and we shopped around asking for somebody to actually get, who would take the license for the software. And what happened was we got a bank that agreed to do this, and this bank was Chase Bank. So barely 2 months after we signed our contract, Chase Bank went down with our money, our contracts, and all our clients' money. The reason why...
I should sit back down, right?
Just give me 1 minute. Sorry, I've run over time. But the reason, later now, this year, we've got 7,500, we've got over 20 partners that we're working with. We've got clients from 9 different countries, and we're growing. We're looking at straddling the African continent as a colossus. We're looking at building an African brand. That's our team, and that's the Tajiri board game that we've actually developed, if you'd like to play it. And this particular what sticks with me, and the reason why I've chosen to tell this story is because Steve Jobs said in 2005 that you cannot connect the dots looking forward. When I look back at my 10 years and every failure and subsequent relaunch, it has been something that is building towards making me a stronger person. And today, as Telcom does its relaunch, after a legacy of years of trying over and over to get started, I think they also will find that they have the same opportunity. The future is in front of us, and while we don't know how to predict it, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. So let's invent a new one.
Wow. Before you sit down, I have to ask, how did the chicken farm go, though? Just in 10 seconds, how did that go?
That was another experience. It was good for about 9 months. And then the people who were buying chicken for us, actually a few months ago were in the newspapers that they're getting auctioned. So.
Okay, thank you.